Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lookbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. And today, Tina, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite topics, travel.
And there are so many things about it, the joy, the fun, all of that. But also, there are ways to make it easier because travel, like everything else in life, takes a little effort, takes a little planning, takes a little bit of work.
Absolutely. So we'll get into some of our travel ideas. Kind of just to relate it back to what we're doing with Retired. It's certainly about road trip ideas, but when you retire classically, or even retire when we used to work in teaching, for the summer, we would think, what's the next adventure we're going to have? And it truly is about an adventure and learning more about ourselves and about the world. It's an exciting thing, and that's totally relates to our idea of being retired. So, Tina, I thought we'd start off with just planning. What are some tips you have that come to mind when you think about planning for a trip?
It's funny. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. And for me, it's striking the balance between planning and spontaneity. Because if you overplan and overschedule, it takes out the adventure and the mystery that often is usually the best part of any trip is the accident, the place that you didn't end up wanting to be, or the people that you end up meeting. So planning, I think, should be, and I think it applies to life, a scaffold. Get the major things down and have a general idea of where you're going to stay, but be open to flexibility within it.
Absolutely. That's the biggest tip I could give too. And I was thinking it not so much as a scaffold because that reminds me of school and teaching.
Oh,
No, how you had to scaffold lessons, but more like what is your infrastructure? What's your skeletal, what are you going to hang on that skeleton? So, I don't, maybe the skeleton's not so pretty. Maybe the scaffold's better, but
I think
I think infrastructure for me is the word.
okay, and I just have to point out, do you know how I came up with scaffold? I think it was actually, and I see it all the time when you travel, there's always some old building that's being reconstructed, that's being fixed up and modernized. And so there's always a scaffold on the outside. And people kind of jump to each level and they go around to certain sides of the building. Like, so in my mind, it actually is a scaffold in that it's based on travel and based on ancient buildings that I've seen being refurbished.
You were you were you paused there because I was making noise faces because I was trying to pop my ears. These headphones
Oh,
are popping my ears, and your audio seems to be kind of going up and down a little bit. But we'll figure it out. It's all good. But no, I get
well,
you.
and
The scaffold thing, I'm gonna say. I just have to get into the more traditional sense of what a scaffold is because in the last 10 years or so of teaching, it was all about the scaffolds, scaffolding a
mm,
lesson and so it has like now a negative connotation for me. But
you
yeah,
have a tinny taste in your mouth with the word scaffold.
there we go. Well,
Yeah, I
so
got
I'll
it.
I'll just, I'll have to go back to my old view of what a scaffold is. But anyhow, back to
Yeah.
planning. I totally agree with the idea of you got to have this infrastructure, this planning ahead of time that, of course, gets you there and gets you a basic, where are you going to stay? But being open to that flexibility, I think, is the biggest part because it's almost like you have to plan spontaneity, plan that you're going to allow for spontaneity and to see where that goes. I mean, I in our a couple of previous uh episodes we talked about when we took a wrong turn, and some of those have been the most exciting and fun things. So, yeah.
Um, it really made me think, and lots of people love them. Have you ever been on a tour, like a bus tour, a big, huge group tour?
No, I've never been on the bus tour. I did for the first time we did a tour in when we went to Italy last year, and it was through the university. They were supposed to be all like alumni or people who worked for the university, and it got canceled because of COVID. And so, we'd already paid and the money was there, and other people across the nation, same thing. So when they allowed you to come back and use those, it was no longer the group that you signed up with. It was now
Mm.
uh, it was all university people from all over the country, which was kind of cool. So they came in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 people from the same place, but there were about 30 of us. And it wasn't a bus, it was that we stayed in the same place in Lake Como. And then we
Oh.
did day tours from there. And the idea of schlepping up onto a bus every single day, and not that would just drive me crazy. No, I never liked that idea, but I mean, I guess I could be convinced under certain circumstances, but I like the idea of being grounded and, going out from that spot.
So I ask because the first experience I had, I was with my in laws, my newly married husband, and we went to Turkey. And I didn't like how it was like a canned lesson plan
Yeah.
where it was so kind of forced,
Yep.
and you're with people, big group, you have one guide, and you would go out to a restaurant, and it wasn't a normal restaurant. It was the restaurant that all the other buses went to,
Yep.
and all the tables were set up to fit the people that are on each bus. It was so inauthentic, but the part that really sent me over the edge was when we made a stop, and I'm not a buyer, and we wanted to buy a rug because we're in Turkey, so we wanted to get a handmade rug. And it takes a while to go through the rugs when you don't want to just hurry up and buy it. You want to buy the right rug. And of course, with the bus, you have to be exactly on schedule or they will leave you.
Yep.
And they made it very clear. So here we are with our rug. We had to hurry up and buy it. And then we're running literally to get to the bus. They were like, the engines were going. It was like starting in first gear, and everyone was furious. And then I want to fast forward to December. I was on another little, just a day tour in Cuba, and it was the same darn thing. Uh, there was 5 minutes left before the bus, and I decided to go and purchase this mug, and no one had change for me. And the lady in charge of the bus tour was like standing there glaring at me, and I was not about to leave until they were to give me my change. And that's within reason and right. And then everybody glares. And this time I walked on the bus with my head held high because you know what? I just didn't care. It wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to, but I don't like that feeling with tours.
I don't like it either. And then, having to get up and like I say, schlep your stuff, even if they say, oh, just put it outside your door, we'll put it on the bus for you. It's still the packing and the unpacking every day. And you just like lose place of where you are. If I'm going to do that kind of trip, I want to be in my own car doing it my way. And I want to be in control of that. It's not about the control. It's about taking that time. Like in Turkey, you missed out on the ritual of
Yes.
rug buying. Normally, you would come in, they would serve you tea. There's a whole ritual in doing this, and so you got what you wanted, but you missed out on the whole ritual, of the social part that you go on this trip for. So yeah, I'm with you right there. And the thing of all these strangers, you do meet people, I guess, but people get very clicky very quickly and not into it. I liked our little group. I was surprised how much I liked our tour. But here's my other tip that I would give is if you do a
Mm.
tour, choose that very carefully, but then have some time beforehand and or afterwards to do your own little version of that place where you are. So when we arrive someplace, I like to acclimate to not only the climate and the time change, but also to the to get into the feel of the social part of why you're there. So acclimating for your time. If you're on a expensive tour, you want to make sure that you're awake and able to do it. Uh, so you need to get used to the time change if there is one. So that would be a big one. And then at the end to kind of do a catch-all to get what you wanted that you missed maybe wouldn't that you missed out on the tour. So that's a big part of it.
So I have to just commend you on that tip. I think that is, if you're going to do a very structured tour, I love that because it allows you, like you said, to acclimate. And at the end, you can go back and maybe hit those places that you really wish you had time for or do the things you didn't get to do. So I think that's an excellent tip.
Okay. What about the planning for have you do any suggestions for planning on like airfare or um hotels, our
Aha. I do.
VRBOs, etc. Yeah.
I think one of the best apps that I found if you like to stay in nicer places, um, it's called Hotel Tonight. And it's great if you have this spontaneous desire to just go somewhere. This is local. I'm not talking like a big trip, but let's say you just want to go for the weekend to San Diego and you're a couple hours away. You can punch it in and they give you discounted nights because, those are all the rooms that didn't sell. So they give you better prices for better places. And I really have enjoyed that app. Um, what was your other question?
Well, the other one was for places to stay, but also airfare. So in
Oh,
regards
yeah.
to the to places to stay, the way that we've done it now after COVID, things have shifted, have changed, and so like with Airbnb or VRBO, you have to pay ahead of time and pay the whole amount, and then there's often no cancellation, and so you got to read all that
Oh,
stuff very carefully. And we've found that more often than not, there is no cancellation.
wow.
So, you know, people of our age, well, I guess any age really, but emergencies come up, and then you've got issues with parents and, your pets or whatever it might be. And so things happen besides maybe you getting sick or whatever. So, what we've done is schedule a hotel, and then I would also suggest, you can be open minded to whatever, but if you have like nights with Hilton or Hyatt or Marriott or whatever the hotel is, get that app, get your nights, and you get your discount too. That's another way to do it.
Oh, I
But
like that.
schedule with them, and then they generally have full cancellation. There's no at the last minute. Then when you know for sure you're going, you can nab an Airbnb or a VRBO or a nice little hotel and cancel the other. So that's a really something we found useful too.
Excellent. And then you talked about getting airfare. So there is one huge tip, or two, that I want to suggest. But the first is sometimes when I've looked on Expedia or cheap flights, or they do list things, they're often okay in price, but sometimes it's better just to go with your favorite airline and see what they have to offer. Sometimes I think back in the day when they first came out, I think you could get a cheaper flight, but oftentimes they are not direct, ridiculous amount of stops, long layovers. Like you're working for that better price. And sometimes it's better price and a better itinerary just to call the airline that you love.
Yeah, I agree. Plus you build your points with it too. All this assumes that one has a budget for your vacation, and your budget will change. Earlier in life when you're a young person before you have a family, you can go on the budget trip, and you're willing to do the stops, you're willing to lay over and take that incentive as you sit in the airport. All that's great, and that's part of the adventure. It's fun doing that. But I found as I've gotten older, obviously I don't take as much pleasure in that. When you're working, your time is so limited and you need to get there quickly. You have to, there is a fee for that. So budgeting in for the type of trip that you want is important. And sometimes spending that little bit more is really valuable. I found with airfare is to, of course, I'm a planner, so I'll buy, way ahead of time, and that's fine. Then you save some money there, so that helps in that aspect of your budget. But definitely doing a direct flight or ever possible and not changing, getting nowadays they're canceling flights left and right, whether it's weather related or there's some glitch in their computer system or whatever it is. It's not unusual. In fact, it's kind of regular that flights get canceled all the time or delayed massively. So, if you don't want to lose your luggage and you want to get there, especially if you paid for a tour or something else that's already prepaid, the idea is to get there. So a direct flight's super important. If you're leaving the country, to get a direct flight out of the country and then maybe change planes wherever it is that you arrive. So if you're flying to Mexico, get to Mexico City if you need to, and then from there take your flight. If there's not a direct one to where you're going to Europe, if you're going, you get right to Amsterdam and then you take a short flight to wherever else you're going. So get out of the country on a direct flight. um Real big and important.
Excellent.
You know what I've liked too are those dumb air tags. I don't think it's a requirement, but it sure it eases how you feel about things when there's a delay. I just came back from Arizona a couple weeks ago, and apparently there was a problem with the baggage belt, and it was delayed. I mean, normally the bags come out right away, and
Right.
it's straightforward. We were there good half hour, 40 minutes, and then the flight goes off that board, and you're like, oh, gee, what happened? Because the tag said, I can see where my suitcase is. It's still on the airplane. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then people are all standing around, what's going on? Well, I was like, my tag says it's on the airplane. There's nobody there to tell you that, that's what's going on. So finally it did come out, but later that weekend, I came in on Friday and, no, I came in on Monday, and then the next night on TV, it was the baggage the baggage belt had gone
Really?
out for good, and people were delayed many hours, and there were delays in going out, and there were delays in coming back, but, you know, that was the first sign the baggage belt was going out. But those tags are great because they tell you where your bag is, and it gives you peace of mind, answers questions, and then if it were lost, you could find it more easily.
As we're talking about flights, I have one last thing to say that became very apparent. This is the second time this has happened. So I get the budget uh, flight, which is longer than it should have been, which wasn't direct. And as a result, and not paying attention, I ended up having to stay. This is the second time in a major airport alone during the middle of the night. And there's no place to sleep. It's twice now. I did it once in Denver and I did it once now in Miami. It was so cold. And by the luck of God, because I'm always fearful of being cold and knew from my Denver experience, which was the winter, so I thought maybe that was why, but no. I had my down jacket that like goes into a bag and I use that as my blanket and it's lightweight. I froze. I saw all these people, they're putting towels over their heads. I mean, we were all numb, sitting there between the hours of like 12 and 5 in the morning, and there's no food. All the restaurants closed down, and it's truly you. And so, what I would suggest is when you go to push that button because you're so excited you found that deal and you're willing in your mind to go the extra hours to get that budget, pay attention to when the stopover is. It's best to sleep on the plane, believe it or not, than to be stuck in an airport that's over air conditioned with no food, no drink, no anything. So that's my tip.
Yeah, and that's the see, those kind of things are fun when you're younger and you're with somebody. It's not so fun. Yeah, and I'd say, if you're sleeping on the plane or trying to sleep on the plane, it's a lot better. You're moving towards your destination. So
Correct.
that's the big thing. The other thing is just to carry a snack or two, even if you don't think you're gonna use
Always.
it, but a snack or two for that kind of purpose could be really a lifesaver for yourself, but for someone else too, it could actually help them. So let's move on to packing. Packing and prep. So we've got our big plan. We know where we're going, but now we're going to pack and get to the airport. What comes to mind, Tina?
Well, until I met Maria and she helped me unpack in the middle of LAX in front of everyone before I checked on, and I forget why. We undid everything, looked for something, and then she literally just threw everything in, sat on top of my suitcase while I zipped it. And up to that point, I was the most OCD packer in the world. And I learned it really doesn't matter. Just get things that don't wrinkle, and just pack carefully around breakable objects, but use your clothes.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I will say no. I think you need to plan and not, yeah, I don't think you need to OCD it, but you do need to be organized because this last trip that I went on, this is again, you don't know until you know. Because I mean, I've
Right.
traveled all my life, but I went to the airport and I intended to check my bag because here's another tip: as you get older, and I'm a short person, to try to get that bag up and into the luggage compartment above can be hard. I mean, I can do it.
Yeah.
If you can't carry it, you shouldn't do it. But
True.
checking is wonderful, especially on a direct flight. Only on a direct flight. If it's not direct, then you better put that in your luggage carrier. But on those international flights, those luggage carriers are that much higher. So even if I try to stand on the
Oh,
seat to put it up there,
Sue.
which I do regularly, that's another issue because then you have to tilt backwards. My back is hurt,
So
so
true.
I'm sorry, it's not worth getting injured or having it fall on somebody to hurt. No. So I like to check it if it's a direct flight. Here's what happened. I arrived at the airport at my local airport. It's just a 1 hour, 15-minute flight to Phoenix. We got to the airport about an hour and a half ahead of time. I have TSA pre-check, so I know it's going to be fine. An hour and a half for an hour and 15-minute flight should be
Wow.
okay, and it
Right.
usually is. It wasn't a holiday weekend or anything. It was just a normal
Wow.
it was a normal flight, and the line out the door the line was out the door of the airport to check your bag. I was going on Southwest. That's going to the carousel where you have to, scan your ID. Then you tag it yourself and take it over to a person. That line was out the door, and I'm like,
Wow.
okay, I'm not going to get through in an hour. That's not more than an hour and a half line because normally when you stand in those lines, maybe there's 20 people ahead of you, and that can take a good half hour,
Right.
maybe 20 minutes. And it's like, no way, that's not going to work. So I went over to the side because I had a backpack, a little carrier backpack, and then that suitcase. I had put my liquids in the bag, and so quickly, and like, so I'm not pulling everything out of my suitcase in the airport. I found my liquids, and I knew that, thank goodness that I had actually not packed a lot of liquids. They were all small size, and so I pulled those out. I did have fingernail clippers, and I'm like, okay, I got to pull those out too because you don't know. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not,
Right.
and yeah. So I rearranged that. So knowing where your stuff is in your suitcase, you can quickly do that, rearrange, put this things in the correct bag, and be ready to go. So that I would say, I'm sorry, but yeah, you have to have an organization, and also I think organizing helps um, make sure that you have all the things. You didn't forget something important at home. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all how your personality operates.
It's
But
true.
I'm telling you, the liberation of getting out of, like, how to make every s- inch of space be the most efficient and least wrinkle free, I feel liberated. So, look at it either way, because what you're saying is true, Sue. And also for those of you who the dread, because I'm one of these people, I'm terrified I'm going to forget something, down to my favorite chapstick. Like, if I could bring my entire home with me, I would.
Okay, so yeah, I think your exercise in breaking the OCD around it and the correct type of lip chapstick or whatever. Yeah. I think that's good, but I will continue to use my strategy. It works for me. I always try to leave. That's the other thing is try to leave space so that when you acquire something, you can bring it back. Either that or purchase another purchase a box. I don't like to keep purchasing suitcases, but it
Right.
could be. The advantage of a suitcase is it has wheels, but if you could also do a box or a backpack or something else that you could put on top of your suitcase and pull it that way. So a bungee is really good. If you're doing a box, you need a bungee. That's good.
Hmm.
So I like here's what I like about packing too. I've tried those air bags where you suck the air, you roll the air out of
Oh,
them, and,
yeah.
and they burp. Those are cool because then you can put stuff that's wet, like from the when you went swimming, or there's I don't take towels, but your swimsuit, swim gear, or maybe you were washing out some clothes that didn't dry all the way. You can put those in that, and then they'll fit back in your suitcase fine. Those were good, but I'm started using those. They call them squares or zipper squares or what do they call them? I don't know what they call them, but they're these pouches that you put the clothes in and you zipper them closed and it smushes them down. And
Yeah.
I like
I've
those
had
too.
those too.
Yeah. I like those too because then I just pack that, stick it in there, and then you take it out. It's all right there. It's easy to carry around. There it is, good to go. So
And again, for those of you who I don't think packing to you it doesn't sound like this is a dreaded thing.
no.
For me, I start getting knots in my stomach like a week before just thinking about having to pack. So for me, I now do it like the day before, and I literally just lay out things, and I have a place to put my underwear and pajamas and my bras, let's say, and socks. But the rest, truly, I truly just lightly fold it, throw it in, shut it. It's so overwhelming. So I can't use bags anymore. I just can't. So I'm just speaking for those that have the greatest anxiety to let it go.
I
That's what I'm saying.
I think
Let
it's
it go.
important to have different strategies for different people. Some things work for
Right.
some and not for others. The underwear thing and the socks, I always like stuffing those in the shoes to keep the form of the shoes. That's kind of
I
cool.
used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to, if I'm going on a trip that I've long anticipated, especially when I was working, I think this is true. I will I will in the guest bedroom lay out my suitcase and the
Yes,
items, and
if
I'll start
possible.
enjoying the idea of, "Oh, it's a week away. Oh, okay, I'll have to wear my all my other clothes, not my favorite ones that I wanna take on the trip." And really, I'm luxuriating in the idea of already the pre-planning of the trip. It kind of extends and gives some more, trip vibes going, so it's not a bad thing.
You know what? You sound like a lovely person to go with ahead of time, because for me, it's such a dreaded anxiety. I can't relax until the ticket's in hand. I've made it past TSA, and then I can breathe. Then I feel like I'm on vacation and I'm ready to enjoy. But until that moment, it is one big bundle of knots.
Oh, I just love the anticipation of it too. I think it's delightful. No, and then the packing. What do you take on board with you? I like to take a long sleeve shirt, unless it is winter and you need a coat. I like to have a long sleeve shirt, even though if I'm going to a very hot place like Phoenix in the summer or the Caribbean or whatever, you need it for the air conditioning. It's
Yep.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the best piece of advice. I think that's true.
And then, I try to choose one that could be used for sunscreen then too. It's so, it doubles its purpose. The long sleeve. Do you take a hat? I love hats.
You know, I had just recently gotten into the last year the Panama hat, because in Cuba it's just so
Uh-huh.
Cuban and fun. And yeah, now I just wear that hat like no matter the outfit, it comes with me and I love it.
Yeah, I love my hat. I love those kind
What's
of
yours?
the
What's your
Panama.
hat?
Oh, let me go put it on.
Ah, here I'll get mine too.
It's hard to put a hat on with headphones.
Hold on. Oh, Sue.
So that's hat 1. Here's hat 2. This is the one I took to
We're
Phoenix.
twins.
This one is really nice because it's really thin and in the air, you can feel the air go right through it. It's amazing. This one I
Ooh.
got in Milan. And
Ooh,
then
that's
this one I
nice.
got just most recently in Hawaii. It's a little heavier. It's got a nice band on it, and then I got the little Hawaiian flower.
Oh, that's cute.
You look stupid with the headphones on.
Right?
No, so anyhow, I love my hats, and usually, if I know I'm going somewhere, I can take it because then they get crunched and I get upset. Um, but if darn, if I have to buy another one, oh no, I don't have
Well,
a problem with it.
and I'm learning. So my other hat is this hat, but darker. And
Okay,
so that's like my work hat, and this is like my dress up hat
very
because the dark
nice.
one can get dirty and it doesn't show. Um, I just want to say that this could be part of like the retirement side or women of a certain age because I don't think I would have been a hat person before, but now I'm thinking, how do I protect my neck from burning? How do I protect my face from burning?
Your ears too.
Um, Ears too, my eyes. I now have this like scarring tissue because I haven't protected my eyes enough. So a lot of this is just like self preservation, but I've learned hats are fun.
Hats
Hats
are
are personality.
very fun, very fun. Absolutely. Wear a hat. Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You're funny. Okay. So yeah, on board, I like to have that. I like to have a book. Sometimes the book space is not available, so maybe I'll take a magazine. But I also otherwise I'll take a book and then I'll leave it at my destination so someone can always use it and have it and enjoy it too. So book is reading material is important. And then like I said, a snack. I also carry your any medications and a pair of underwear and socks with me in my carry-on.
Absolutely. Underwear is a must because if you do get separated, I would even take it to the next level if you have enough room to just one lightweight outfit
Right.
and your toothbrush if possible.
And then of course there's the mask and the wipes. The wipes for the when you get on board and I wipe down everything. I did that way
Oh,
before
wow.
COVID. It's like I don't want to get sick and it's like all these people crammed in here, you're gonna get sick, and I don't want to be sick on a holiday. So I wipe it down and then it's all good to go. I do wear a mask now when I'm on an airplane. I'll get one of those not the K9 and whatever they are. I get one of those ones you get at the doctor's office, and I'll just wear that on the airplane.
Okay, I'm going to interject. Next door during the pandemic, my neighbor was a American airline captain, and she explained the filtering process. And I've read it since in BBC. No, it's excellent, Sue. So I just don't even worry about it.
Well, for me, it's they say, and I've read all that too. So what happens is, it's when you're boarding and you're all in that stupid aisle thing and that waiting to get on the plane, you're breathing
Oh,
each
the
other's
tunnel.
air, and then you get on, and it's not there because it's not sealed yet. So I'll wear the mask
Correct.
until they're actually close the door and put that on. Then I'll take my mask off, and I'm good to go. That's been very helpful. And then the other thing I do that I like on the actual travel itself is years ago I went on a long flight and my ears didn't adjust to the pressure,
Pressure.
and I remember I came back and it was during a winter break. Came back and my ears did not pop until after school was out. So that
Oh,
was like 6 months. It was horrible. It felt like that pressure. You can't hear. I went to the doctors, the ENT, and they're like, yeah, unless you want a procedure, so
wow.
they finally popped and it actually hurt when it popped. It was like, but it was like, okay, there's my hearing again. So ever since then I've used they have these little travel plugs that you can put into your ear that allows you to have to pressurize your ears, and they have kid version ones too. So I've always thought about those poor kids
Hmm.
that struggle with this too.
Mm-hmm.
You could again, you put them on right before you take off. You take off, you get to the maximum height, then you can take them off, and then you put them back on as you descend. And it has been a godsend. I haven't had that issue since, and it's after experiencing that, there's no way I would ever go back.
So excellent. One other little thing. Most people, we all tend to get dark luggage, black, gray, most. And and so there are 90 million same bags. So for those of you that are boring like myself, um, get a bow, either like Christmas curling ribbon, or ribbon of some sort, and tie it onto your luggage that is in some flashy color or design, and that way you look for your bow, and it makes your luggage stand out. That's my last little tip.
Yep, either that or a cool, fun tag. So if you're again, this is a tip for when you travel and you wanna buy something to remember your trip. I've started thinking, "Okay, I don't need more things." I loved at the time when I was younger having a curio cabinet with travel items, and I really enjoyed looking at them. But now no, I'm trying to get rid of stuff. And
Right.
but what I buy is things that are useful. So a luggage, if you don't have one already, get a luggage tag from the place you're going. I think that's fun to do too. Or make your own from a photograph that you had. You just, they have those online places where you can make luggage tags. It's kind of fun.
Oh, wait, what is that?
Like,
Yeah, send me the link.
well, like Shutterfly, all of them have. I don't wanna, like, we're not getting
Really?
paid for anything, so, we should say, "Hey, Shutterfly, why don't you, support us here?" But anyhow, no, places like them or, there's lots of them online, where you send in you digitize your photo, and then they make it into a luggage tag. It's very and it's a sturdy one, so it's fun.
How cute. I like that.
It's fun.
Hmm.
Hmm. We could do 2 episodes of this, I can see. We love travel that much, don't we?
If I had all the money in the world, I would be traveling every day. I'd
Yeah,
come home, regroup, and go back out.
that would be fun. I would totally be
Hmm.
on board with that. Okay,
Ah!
um, so travel itself, you're at your place, wherever you're going. We talked about earlier, like, being in the moment, don't over you wanna plan, but you don't wanna overplan. So being in the moment, it's hard to make that shift because before you're anticipating or you're dreading, and you are in your work environment or your everyday environment, and you operate differently then. So it's harder, I think, to be in the moment when we practice so much of not being in the moment. We practice a lot of distracting yourself with your cell phone
So
or
true.
whatever. And so to really um, enjoy your travel and to I would say practice being in the moment, and that's like your mantra.
Put your phone away. I think the problem with the phone is it's your camera. And I think that's where the lines get blurred with me sometimes and distracted because you want to share everything. So you're always taking pictures and then you want to share with everybody that you love. And I think that has taken away a lot of experiences for me that I want to kind of wean myself from. I don't know how you feel about that, or do
Well,
you share?
it is different because for me, photography has been something since I was a kid,
Hmm.
and I love and I experience the world visually, and I see things, and I want to take pictures of it. So what I do with that is I will take photos, and then I put it away. I don't like at the moment post. It's not about the posting. It's about capturing those moments, and then figuring out when to post. I do like to. The other thing is practicality, visual wise, whether I'm doing video or photography. Then you got to get it off the phone and off your cloud because it takes up too much space. So then I will upload it and be done with it. So, um, yeah. At night, if I'm trying to go to sleep, I'll sit there and edit my video. It's fun. I enjoy doing that. I think it adds to my experience. But absolutely, if all you're doing is looking through your camera the whole time, then you're missing out on things. And to step out of that, that's why some parts of your trip, it's always fun where they say, "Oh, no photography is allowed." You're going through a museum, you think, "Oh, darn, I wanted that picture of." It's like, no, just embrace it.
It's a
Go,
relief.
yes, go
For me, it's a
experience.
relief. Someone
Yeah,
telling me I can't. Like,
yes,
great.
yes. So just turn that around and embrace it, because it's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, be in the moment, enjoy it.
And next note is just to say, not only be in the moment, really take a second and connect with all your senses. So pay attention not just to what you see. Take a moment, close your eyes, and just listen. In every place, there's different sounds that you will have never really heard before. When you eat, take a minute and really think about what you're eating. Like taste it. Or if there's some strange texture in material or something, take the time to really just reconnect with the senses. I think that's why I do love travel, because every sight, smell, texture, it's so different that it's stimulating.
I
It's just the
agree.
most stimulating thing.
And here's the other thing is like, I don't want to waste my trip and get a bad meal or a bad experience. But you have to risk that sometimes because you don't know what to expect. So that's why I like to capacitate myself ahead of time with having read about where I'm going, what kinds of foods that are typical of that area, so that I can get the food of that area and not think, oh, I need a hamburger or something. It's ridiculous. So to embrace that and to know about it ahead of time, so that when you're in the moment, you can make decisions that are going to be have a better chance of being successful for what it is that you want, what you're looking for. Do you use tour books?
I used to always use a tour book. Right now, I keep going back to Cuba, so I feel like I don't need a tour book anymore. I am the tour book. But I haven't gone anywhere lately that's new to require a tour book. But I like it, yeah, for that reason, just to scope out like the major attractions and then choose from that. So I think it's a great starting point, actually. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, and I think, that one time I went to Italy and we didn't have good food, and I'm like, "How could you go
Oh,
to Italy and not have good food?" I think we
right.
had a few excellent meals, and then we also stayed in a place where I made the food, which is fun, but it's not a vacation, because no one else was making it with me. If you're doing it together,
Oh,
it's fun, but, um,
yeah.
so I'm not, like, gonna be so stringent that I'm not going to be in the moment and choose something that is unplanned or unknown. But you take recommendations from local people. That's usually helpful. I like local people recommendations more so than even like hotel suggestions, because sometimes the hotel
That's
people
true.
have a
Connection.
connection. Yeah, but I like Rick Steves. You can't beat Rick Steves. He always gives good advice, and what he says he means, and that's he's a good tour book person, I would say.
He's excellent. And I also do the Lonely Planet.
Uh-huh, I've done them before. They've been good.
Hmm.
What about your phone itself? The other part of the phone is useful is the mapping, because uh if you're traveling in a car and it's in another language, and maybe a language you don't speak, you better have a some help here. I loved maps in the old days, and that's how
Me
we used to
too.
travel, but I have to say GPS is pretty darn good.
I have mixed feelings about the GPS because often, at least when I'm down here in Southern California, reacquainting myself with these horrific freeways, often they take you off on side roads sometimes because traffic is so bad. And I don't know that it would really save time. Sometimes, even up in Sacramento when I lived in that area, it didn't help. It actually got me off the freeway and took quite a bit of time. So I really just miss paper maps. I guess that really puts me at a certain age, but I like to be able to make the decisions myself.
Well, that's why I like, the guidebooks, because they usually come with little maps,
Yes,
and
that's true.
so and that's the other thing is, like, reading about it or thinking about it, or even when you're there in the evening, you look at the map again and you kind
That's
of
so
orient
true.
yourself. It really helps. So, I think that, with car driving, you gotta have, the GPS.
Yeah,
That's
you
really
do.
helpful. So, one year we went to visit our friend's house in southern France, and, we arrived in Barcelona, and all I did is had her the address in her little village, and punched that in. Boom, there you go. And if we had
Wow.
not had that, it would have been hard to find. After that, once we acclimated to that area, we just went with the signs that we saw on the street. It was fun. And if you got lost or whatever, it was fun because that was kind of your intent. But to get there, to get to that destination, that was a lifesaver. But I did have paper map because if you can't get Wi-Fi, then
Oh,
you're not
so
prepared.
true.
So yeah. Okay, Tina, what about the afterglow? How do you keep the afterglow of travel? Because, that's a tip that people forget. So you're in the moment, you've done all your packing, your planning, your anticipation. You've had this trip. It could be you've had mishaps along the way or it could have been fun the whole time. You've learned new things. How do you keep that afterglow?
I think I'm just blessed because I think no matter the situation, even the struggles, because let's just be honest, sometimes there are some serious struggles and difficulty in travel and frustrations. And if you're with people, sometimes it's working things out. But it seems to me whenever I come home, I only remember the good things. And I kind of just have the afterglow. I think it's because I feel so happy. It's so nice to be home, which I always appreciate. So I get into a new glow because I appreciate my home, my territory, and everything that my favorite chapstick. Um, but I also I just somehow remember only the good things. Like I very rarely remember the bad things or I eliminate them from thought. So I keep the glow.
So for me, I think it's I experience that phenomena of you get home, you've acclimated to time again, and you're very appreciative of everything in your home and your pet and your bed, all the things that the creature comforts of what it is that you have at home. But a few days go by and you're like, wow, where's my memory of this or that? And for me, photographs do that. That's why it's one of the reasons I like taking photographs. And they're not just like shots just to take a shot. It puts me in that moment and I remember the smell. I remember the
Ah, nice.
taste. I remember the feeling that I had when I took that picture. And for me, that's one of the things that I like. The other thing that really helps me with an afterglow is, um, and I've done this more recently, is the food. So
Mm.
bring home what you learned about the food. If you had the opportunity to maybe while you were there take a cooking lesson, or go to the market and buy the ingredients, and if you went to a restaurant and they had a delicious dish, you look up how to make it. You make it yourself. So bringing the food back, whether it's a technique you learned or new ingredients or just the dish of that place, that's fun. That's fun for me to do is bring back the food.
And I remember coming back from Costa Rica, my favorite thing, it was called pinto gallo or gallo pinto. And it's just the beans and rice.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I did. I came right back, went on the internet, found the 5-star recipe, and got the special salsa that they had. I found out how to get it. And I think you're right. The food brings you back.
Yeah.
And it does.
Well, it connects you to that time and that moment because, food, music is another thing that people can bring
Oh,
back,
right.
and it can, things that like you said that talk to our senses. And they're more real. They have more depth than that little curio cabinet that I filled. I'll bring back spices or ingredients or from wherever we go or you source it while you're here and it takes you there. It lets you enjoy the afterglow.
I just realized, so Costa Rica, I brought back a tray. So I would say for me, my souvenirs are something useful that I would use in my day to day. And I, to this day, every morning now, I go outside and have my breakfast and I put all my food on my tray and I carry it out. And I always think back to the beauty of that trip in Costa Rica. And I bought a mug, the lady that was mad at me at the tour, it was all over this mug that had a sunflower on it and says Cuba. And every morning I have my coffee in that. So that's part of the afterglow, is buying something, not just a little thing that says Florida on a keychain you stick in a drawer. It's something useful that you would have wanted anyway for your day-to-day life, I would say.
Right, and that's where, I think as we've gotten older and we're trying to get rid of stuff, it really does,
Yes.
that the souvenirs you get, for me, it's food items that you might use yourself or you give to your friends. Could be a nice chocolate or a coffee. It could be a kitchen towel, uh, the things you described. I'm wearing right now my Hawaiian shirt, it's like clothing
Oh, yeah.
that reminds you of that, and so I don't, I try not to overpack. I assume I'm going to buy a piece of clothing or two while I'm there. And, um, it's nice. The hat that
Yeah.
you wear. Yeah. All those things that remind you of and in a sensorial level, in a deeper, more connecting level.
Well, Sue, I liked your question. I think that's a good final question, like the afterglow. Like, what is smart? Good job. Way to think it through.
Well, there's all the parts of traveling. We might come back and revisit this because there's a lot of more ideas that we can share. So we hope that you all enjoyed that.
And perhaps if you guys have some excellent travel tips for a future episode, send us to our Gmail address.
Sounds great. That wraps up this episode of Retired. Thanks for listening.
Until next week, please feel free to lend your feedback or ask questions by emailing us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. You're invited to follow us on Facebook at Retired Podcast New Tread. Check the show notes for links and contact information.
Retired is co-hosted by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Please click to subscribe so that you won't miss your chance to
Join our retired road trip.